one voice note, one marriage, and an entire internet choosing sides. Nobody knew a private situation would become Nigeria's biggest online discussion.
Every viral story begins quietly, not with headlines, not with blogs, not with the internet, but with a moment, a message, a lonely conversation nobody was supposed to hear. At exactly 1:43 a.m., while the city slept under the orange glow of streetlights and distant traffic, Selene stared at her phone in silence. The room was dark except for the pale blue light reflecting across her face. Beside her, Ray slept peacefully, or at least he pretended to. In that house, pretending had become a habit. Pretending everything was fine, pretending the marriage still had warmth, pretending the silence between them wasn't slowly becoming permanent. To the world, they were perfect. The internet loved them. Luxury vacations, expensive dinners, romantic birthday captions, podcast appearances, smiling photographs. Every post looked effortless. Every smile looked real. But social media never shows the silence after the camera stopped recording. Ray Eden was a respected voice across the country. Confident, intelligent, untouchable. Millions listened to him every week. He spoke about success, discipline, relationships, power, masculinity. He could hold an audience for hours without running out of words. But lately at home, he barely spoke at all. Celine noticed that slowly. First, it was the late nights at work. Then the missed dinners. Then the short replies. Then the emotional distance. Eventually, even eye contact became rare. The man who once made her feel seen now moved around the house like a polite stranger. And loneliness is dangerous when nobody notices it, especially online. That night, Selene was scrolling endlessly through Instagram, unable to sleep. Perfect people, perfect bodies, perfect couples, everyone performing happiness for strangers. Then she stopped at a video, a dimly lit studio, soft music, a familiar voice. Cairo, the internet's favorite lover boy. Women flooded his comments every day. They called him healing. They called him emotionally intelligent. They said his music understood pain better than people did. And honestly, maybe it did. Celine watched the clip again. Then again. The lyrics felt personal. Too personal. Like someone had reached into her chest and turned private emotions into music. She hesitated for a moment before replying to his story. This song feels too real, simple, harmless. At least that's what she told herself. She dropped the phone beside her and closed her eyes, expecting nothing. Men like Cairo didn't notice random messages. Celebrities rarely replied, especially at that hour. 2 minutes later, her phone vibrated. She opened the message slowly. Real pain creates real music. That was all. But somehow, it felt like more. Selena stared at the screen longer than she should have. A strange feeling settled inside her chest. Not excitement, not yet, just the feeling of finally being noticed. And lonely people never forget the feeling of being noticed. Across the city, Cairo sat alone inside his recording studio, replaying unfinished songs through giant speakers. Empty bottles rested on the table beside him. Fame had changed everything around him except the silence. The awards, the money, the attention, the sold-out shows. None of it fixed the loneliness that waited for him every night after the cameras disappeared. People thought emotional artists lived beautiful lives. They didn't understand that some artists only knew how to sing about pain because they lived inside it. Cairo looked at Selena's profile again. Beautiful smile, elegant photos, perfect life. But he had learned something about social media a long time ago. Perfect pictures usually hide exhausted people. He typed another message. You okay? Celine read it 3 times before replying. No. The conversation should have ended there. But some conversations arrive at exactly the wrong time in people's lives. Minutes turned into hours. Hours turned into routine. Every night after Ray fell asleep, Celine found herself waiting for Cairo's messages. At first, they talked about music, then relationships, then fears, then regrets, then the things people only say after midnight. The dangerous thing about emotional connections is that they rarely feel wrong in the beginning. There were no physical meetings, no hotel rooms, no dramatic betrayal, just voice notes, long conversations, emotional honesty. Two lonely people slowly becoming each other's escape. And somewhere inside those late night conversations, boundaries quietly disappeared. Ray noticed the changes before he understood them. The hidden smiles, the faster phone locks, the way Celine suddenly carried her phone everywhere, the way she laughed softly at messages she refused to explain. At first, he ignored it. Successful men convinced themselves they're too important to be betrayed, too respected, too powerful. Besides, he was busy. Interviews, brand meetings, podcasts, events, endless attention from the world outside his home. But deep down, something unsettled him. One night, while recording a podcast episode about modern relationships, Ray paused mid-sentence after seeing Celine's name flash across his mind unexpectedly. The irony almost made him laugh. Millions of people came to him for relationship advice, while his own marriage quietly collapsed in private. Back at home, Celine sat in darkness, listening to Cairo's latest voice note. I think people become dangerous when they feel emotionally invisible, Cairo's voice said softly through the speaker. Eventually, they stop caring what happens next. Celine replayed the message again and again. Because sometimes people don't fall in love with a person. Sometimes they fall in love with feeling understood. Days passed. The conversations deepened. Cairo started sending unfinished songs only she had heard. Celine started telling him things she had never admitted out loud. Childhood fears, marriage disappointments, the pressure of pretending happiness online. And every night their voices grew more familiar, closer, warmer, more dangerous. One evening during dinner, Ray asked a simple question. Why do you smile at your phone so much lately? Celine froze for half a second. Not enough for most people to notice, but enough for her husband. Just social media, she replied calmly. Ray nodded slowly, but something inside him stayed awake long after the conversation ended. That night, while Celine showered, her phone lit up on the bed. Cairo, voice note. Ray stared at the screen, just stared. The notification disappeared before he touched it. But now the silence had a name. Cairo. The next few days became heavier. Suspicion changes the atmosphere inside a home. Conversations become shorter. Eye contact becomes sharper. Every small movement feels suspicious. Celine noticed Ray watching her more often now, and somehow that pushed her deeper toward Cairo instead of away from him. Because secrecy creates intensity. One rainy night, unable to sleep, Celine recorded a voice note longer than usual. Her voice trembled slightly. I don't even remember the last time somebody listened to me like this, she whispered. Sometimes I feel invisible in my own life. Cairo listened silently from his studio apartment. Outside his windows, Lagos moved endlessly through rain and traffic lights. Inside, he replayed her voice again, then again, then again. What neither of them realized was that emotional affairs rarely stay emotional forever. Eventually, emotions demand consequences, And somewhere far beyond their private conversations, the internet was waiting for screenshots, waiting for leaks, waiting for scandal, because the internet feeds on broken people pretending to be perfect. And soon, one voice note will be enough to destroy everything.